you guys have talked a lot about deputy retention, so I don't think we need to go into that one. To the point of the JTTF, for example, the first one would be logistical. Now, prior to COVID, the average police response time nationally was 11.11 minutes, which is a very long time if you're in the middle of a violent crime. If it's a rampage shooting, the average loss of life is 4 per minute, and that's if the guy's going slow. So, to the point of response time, which is, I'm almost certain, an ongoing problem, especially for a sheriff's department. What are your thoughts on that one? The other one would be recruitment, because I would have to imagine, and I've never worked in the industry, but I would have to imagine that you guys have always got to be hiring, because you got people coming and going, retiring, moving on, whatever. Like you said, you get a lot of deputies poached by other law enforcement agencies. Tell me what you would do with that as well, and we're going to start off with Mr. Hollifield.
Well, response time, that all depends on manpower. Number one, the sheriff's, the county, you talked about 870 square miles. In that 870 square miles, there are 4 actual zones. You got a north, northeast, northwest, you got central, you got southern. At any given time, there should be somewhere around, if the shift was full, there should be anywhere from 24 to 25 officers working. If you have somebody off, you have somebody out sick, you have somebody training, you have somebody doing whatever, then it gets down to about 17, 18 officers. Now you take that 820 square miles, you got 17, 18 officers, and each officer has got about 40 square miles that he has to cover. So somebody in Enright, somebody in Chesney, somebody in Landrum decides they call. The supervisors, what they've had to do, they've had to take and look at how many people they got, number one. They got to look at the busiest zones that they have, the ones that have the most calls. They have to fill those. And then what happens is the one in Enright, that zone's not full. So what happens is somebody has to come from 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away. Somebody might already be on a call. So the problem is, number one, individuals that we got working at the sheriff's office, officers. And it's going to go back to pay. If we can't fill the slots that we have now, then we won't have anybody that will be able to be in every one of those zones. That is the issue, number one. I want to cover something right quick since it's my 3 minutes that we haven't said anything about. Overcrowded at the detention center. For 8 years I was on the road. For 11 years I've been in the detention center. Y'all talking about a mess. The detention center itself is a mess. You're talking about a detention center that has room for 574 individuals, and they're running 1,000 each and every day. It's called overcrowding. We just built a new building, but as soon as we built it, we filled it up. So what we need is for the citizens to say, listen, we need to change something. We have to do something within the next 5 to 10 years, or the detention center is going to be overrun. So anyway, that's my time. I see the stop sign. So anyway, appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
Let me say this in a nutshell. People have heard me say this over and over again. Insanity is doing the same things over and over and over and expecting a different result. I'm telling you, coming from Florida and from Texas, our law enforcement perspective is a lot different than it's been here. And I've been fighting this battle uphill to bring change so that your safeties are not compromised, and so that the officers that respond to your door, the best trained and equipped officers, who are working on muscle memory, not the last video that South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy had us to do that had no application for how they trained us. We need real training for real everyday experience to respond out to your houses. And especially with the manpower shortage, I'd rather have one good deputy or one good officer with me than 10 that I'm more concerned about than they shoot me in the back because they're not properly trained and equipped to do the job. Do I think we need more officers? Absolutely. I want to bring us back to not just specs, but most people don't realize when I got here 14 years ago, we were already 40 plus years behind the time with the rest of the country in law enforcement. That includes our jail that was built in the 90s that should have never been built for a 500-bed jail, that should have already been at least 2,000 beds that many years ago. But most of the public was not educated as to how far behind the times we are. That has been my perspective, fighting the battles here with mental illness, trying to connect services with the homeless, trying to deal with drugs and the narcotics on the streets, trying to get our laws changed so that officers don't have to prosecute their cases while we're going up against defense attorneys, trying to bring legislative changes that most people don't even understand, are so far behind the times. We're the only state in the union out of all the states that doesn't even have a strangulation law on the books. And that's speaking volumes because strangulation is one step away from lethality, which means guns or somebody's death. We're so far behind the times, and if people don't understand the needs for these changes, we're just policing and existing and saying, how do we put the Band-Aid on how to fix our morale problem? It's a lot bigger than morale. And yes, as he was explained to him, I will go and take better officers and try to bring them from out of state here so to make this the #1 county that everybody wants to police at. And in that, we'll bring the solutions of raises and get you the best deputies out there to serve you because you deserve it for your public protection. We deserve it as a county to have officers in numbers, proper numbers, not unrealistic. We're hoping our stats are from 20 years ago. It's good to have 50 officers. Baloney, look at the rest of the country and see how many officers they've got. We are so far behind the times because we can't envision the need. Those are the things I've been fighting for 14 years to bring change here because we want to do it the good old boy way, the same system, and then call that good at the end of the day. We need to bring the modernization here. We no longer need to compromise with our safety.
You want to know how big our county is, start going around knocking on doors trying to get elected sheriff. That's a fact. I know a lot of people, and that's, believe it or not, that's one of the biggest concerns I get. Every time that I talk to people and knock on doors, they say, what are you going to do about response times? What are you going to do about response times? And that's something, as Randy's already talked about, this county is huge. We have over 800 square miles. Last month, over 1,200 calls were answered on uniform patrol just on first shift alone. Average daily crews were around 12 to 14 per day. So when you do the math, you realize what those guys are going to have to deal with trying to get to those different calls. And the reality is this, on day one, we have to focus on shoring up uniform patrol because there's a reality. Uniform patrol can function without anybody else in that office, but nobody else in that office cannot function without uniform patrol. We have to find a way that we can attract people to come, but not only that, we have to make it attractive to be on uniform patrol. Greenville County has done an unbelievable job of doing that. When Hobart Lewis became the sheriff of Greenville County, he was 112 deputies short. As of last week, he was 12 deputies short. He's figured something out, and he's done something to bring that. We will have to reprioritize calls to ensure that the calls that need to be answered, that are emergencies, are getting answered immediately, and they're getting where they need to be in a timely manner so we can protect the public. The second part of that is going to be the recruitment. We have to go all the way back to the very first question when we start talking about the culture at the sheriff's office. When we begin to change that culture, and as I was explaining that scenario of changing that culture, what you end up doing is you have people suddenly wanting to be there. I've been over-recruiting for years for the Highway Patrol, and I've watched our numbers remain the same. And it's not a problem that is just here in South Carolina or Spartanburg County. It's a problem nationwide. Everybody is struggling. It's not just the sheriff's office that's struggling to recruit. It's EMS, it's fire, it's everybody within the public service community that's struggling to recruit. But we have a responsibility to make people want to be part of the sheriff's office, and we have to change that culture to entice them to want to be there. And the only way we do that is by the sheriff leading as that servant leader for people to want to be part of what's taking place and what is going on at the sheriff's office. Thank you very much.
Mr. Stevens.
I agree with a lot of what's been said, but going back, looking at things in just a common sense manner. As I've already said, as a forensic accountant, I've already started looking at the budget. Yeah, the deputy's pay is going to have to come up, and Deputy 1, Deputy 2. I don't see a big problem with that, with liquidating, getting rid of toys, and using money that's been put in escrow for payroll. We should be able to do that immediately. And at the same time, as I said, offer time and a half to them. A lot of them may jump at that. But we got to cut the fat off the steak. And we have to get manpower out there on the street to get to the calls, to give you security and provide to the public. I don't think that's going to be a big problem, Deputy 1, Deputy 2. I think I can solve that problem pretty quick. Yeah, it's good to go to county council, and I will. But I want immediate action. Now, when you start talking about the detention center, since that falls under the sheriff, I know that's going to be a thing on my table. And I started looking at this, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not about spending money, your money, unless I have to do it. When you say the detention center was full the day it was built, full of what? Full of what? Well, when you start looking at that, all these people are not violent offenders. They're not all murderers. Guess what? The murderer's there. They are there. And they're being held for trial. And they may be there for years. But that's not all that's there. You got people up there who's been stopped for not paying a traffic fine. Jail. You got somebody that didn't show up to court when they should have been to court. Jail. And we're feeding them, we're housing them, they're taking up space. Well, what's crazy about it is the recidivism rate is 75%. Well, what does that mean? That means they're coming back. Why are they coming back? Well, look what you've got. You've got a TV, you've got a basketball court, you've got a hot meal. Something's wrong here, folks. This ain't the answer. But look at the resources we do have. The Restitution Center down here in Spartanburg is a great resource. If you're a nonviolent offender, child support, whatever you've done, the judge can sentence you to the Restitution Center. And guess what? You're going in there, and you're going to stay there, and they're going to get you a job, and you're going to work till you pay that debt. And guess what? They don't come back. So there's other resources out there instead of spending our money building jails. Not saying that that's not something we won't do in the future. But if they're coming back, it's not the answer. We need to start looking at this pretty hard. Thank you.
Mr. Cheese.
I think the biggest thing that we don't talk about is our detention facility and the overcrowding issue and things like that. A few years ago, when I was supervising the gang unit, one of the things that we constantly ran into when we were arresting people for different reasons, one of the main things they said is, I do what I do because I can't find a job. I'm always back here because I'm doing this or that to support my income, to support my family, or whatever the case may be. And we quickly realized that we could be somebody that's standing in the gap for these people. We reached out to several community partners that we had a relationship with, and we realized that there were places like the Goodwill and other places that were willing to give people, even with criminal histories, an opportunity to make a very decent living. One of my ideas for being sheriff is we need to create some type of pipeline between our detention facility and other divisions across Montgomery County, whether it's roads and bridges or landfill or parks and recs or something like that, where we can give the people that are incarcerated in our jail, that are nonviolent, the opportunity to have something to believe in. If I'm able to give you work release time to let you go be on our lawn crew or go install playground equipment, or I give you a tangible skill so that when you leave here, you walk out of jail with not only your property, but we give you tangible resources. I give you an opportunity to have a job. I give you an opportunity to have benefits and different things to take care of your family. I give you an opportunity to not have to come back here again. The people that come here, they're suffering from drug addictions. They're suffering from different things where they have a codependency, where if we give that hope, we give that vision, we partner with our community and our community resources, that we can give them a true opportunity to make a difference in their life. I think at the end of the day, if we are to implement programs like this, we seriously have a real opportunity to decrease the number of inmates and just produce people that are more productive in our society. So thank you.
Mr. Clark.
Creative solutions to difficult problems. I know the detention center is a hot topic. It's the officers need to be treated like the road officers. They bring a certain skill set to us that the road officers sometimes don't have. Incentive pay to go to the road. Let's give them incentive pay. Hey, you do two years at the jail. Let's give you 2 extra %, because that's another skill you're going to bring to the road. That's verbal judo that you have. You're stuck in a pod, and you have to talk people down. You don't have the weapons that we have to be able to use. So again, go up to 5%. You want to stay at the jail for 5 years? We're going to give you 5 extra % to come. You got to give them intangibles as well. The recruiting and retention. If you look right now, there's a county policy that says just for the sheriff's office, non-exempt employees, whether you work 86 hours or 84 hours, what happened to the 40-hour work week? Greenville County, when they do their salary, it includes overtime. So overtime is included. So what we need to do is we need to get back to the 40-hour work week. That's automatically going to give the deputies a raise. It's going to give them at least $1.20 an hour, so they'll make 23 instead of the 22. Let's take a look at that. It starts with county council. County council is the one. There's a district seat that's up and running. It's District 3. So I implore you, if you're District 3, please check your candidates. It starts with county council. That's who funds us. If you're not liking what we have, start with county council. You present to them, and then they give it to us. Response times. Going back to the real-time crime center, if we know where our officers are at, then hey, we can dispatch the closest unit. We need overlapping shifts. I feel that that's a need. I remember, being at 6:30, not wanting to take that call because I got off at 7, and a not necessary call that an officer needs to respond out to. So that's why online reporting would be excellent for this type of situation. You can report your crime online and not have to wait on a deputy to get out there. You're working with a $33 million budget. We must invest in the officers. They should come first. Then look at the toys and make sure that they can be used as a tool, not necessarily get rid of it all in one swoop, a knee-jerk reaction, what has happened. It's just look at it as a tool and make sure that it is performed as a tool and presenting the county council what it is used for and why we are using it and how we are using it. Thank you.
It's interesting enough that we're talking about some creative solutions. I already have some in place, and I don't even work at the sheriff's office. Ladies and gentlemen, years ago when we started having a problem with our drug overdose deaths, I invested my time in speaking to folks that were in treatment programs, one of which is Faith Home here in Spartanburg. Another of which I toured the other day is the Evidence Training Center. Those organizations serve a very fruitful purpose within our community. We've got people up here talking about, we need to invest in that. That program's already, one of those programs is already in place in our county jail and is being used to its fullest capacity. We're getting the most bang out of our buck for that, but we need to continue that, and it needs to flourish. It needs to grow. People need second chances, and if you give them a trade, I agree, what's been taken on here tonight, that can be fruitful. The detention center issues. It's unbelievable that we built a jail in 1993. We've already just mentioned the annex this evening, but in 1993, the very same thing happened. I was around when that jail opened, and as soon as it opened, the day they moved everyone in there, the jail was full. We need to be looking farther ahead, ladies and gentlemen, 5, 10 years, when I'm spending your money, or the government is spending your money, simply because it costs 2 or 3 times more whenever we look at the overcrowding problem to try and solve that than going ahead and investing in what we need today. We need to stop cutting short what we need to make sure we're taking care of our folks. Invest in it now instead of it costing us money way in advance, and it's costing you more money to wait, and it's also endangering our officers the way everything's happening, because there's still a certain number of deputies that are up there watching these people that are in the jail. Our fentanyl problem, again, the opioid problem, the treatment centers are extremely important there. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we have, and I've already addressed this, a retention problem instead of a recruitment problem. I do think that we probably need hire one more recruiter. I do agree that we have a great deal of retention problem. We have an attrition problem. Is what we've got. We need to make sure that we're shoring up the deputies. We pay them, get them training, get them a decent pay where they can raise a family here in Spartanburg. Train them, let them know that there is a chain of command, that everything, what's good for one officer is good for the others. Thank you.
And Mr. Duncan.
All right, I'll try to be quick because there's a lot of topics on here. So if you've done the crime, then you need to pay the time. So if that means that we need to start looking at doing a bigger jail, then so be it. I think you need to be in jail if you've committed a crime. Long response times, we'll have to look at the zones and the tracks and figure out where we can make changes. A lot of those changes are probably going to come with employment. Need more people on the road to reduce the crime, reduce the times over there. But you have to make your department somewhere proud to work for. So the Marine Corps isn't the best place for the best jobs in the U.S. military. Okay, they've got the dirtiest stuff, the most broke stuff. They're getting all their money from the Navy, and they've got all secondhand stuff. It's like a little brother. But you have people knocking down the door to be a Marine. Why do you have people knocking down the door to be a Marine? It's because they want to be there. They feel like they belong there. They feel like that is a purpose. You have to do the same thing with Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office. You have to make it somewhere that people want to go to. Money is not going to be the place. The Marine Corps is not going to offer all the greatest MOSs, but people are still knocking down the doors. So the way you do that, you figure out, as sheriff, the problem is the retention, not the recruitment. We have a great recruiting process right now. We have a lot of people coming in. We have a lot of people going out. So how do you figure that out? So as sheriff, I would have exit interviews with all voluntary resignations. And this is going to be where you sit down, just 5 minutes. Hey, why are you leaving? Is it because of money? Is it because your supervisor's a pain in the butt? Is it because you don't have the tools? Is it because of uniform stuff? What is it? So once we have all this stuff, we can start getting our process. We can start a spreadsheet. Then you go to county council and you say, hey, this month we had 10 people that left this month because of money. We had 5 people left because of uniforms. We had 3 people leave because of supervisors. You handle each individual process and why you have the people leaving. Again, you don't know where you need to go until you know where you're at. So once we figure that stuff out and make the deputies want to stay, then we can start making a big change. I've got a lot of information on my website, Nick Duncan for Sheriff, a lot further in detail about some of that stuff, but that is a good place to start. Mental wellness, making sure that the deputies are taken care of. They want to make sure that they are appreciated and they are well taken care of, and it starts with the sheriff.